Alright, let's talk weapons in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So here's something cool. Every character technically comes with 2 weapons, but you can only equip one at a time. That might sound limiting, but trust me, once you start playing, it actually feels pretty tactical. One of the first mechanics you'll mess with is free aim. That's basically how your characters handle ranged attacks. Gustav pulls out a gun like he means business. Lune flings some magical chaos with her powers, and it all feels super stylish in action. Now, when it comes to choosing the best early game weapons for Gustav, Lune, and Mael, it's not just about raw power. Sure, stats matter, but how that weapon feels in a fight is just as important. Some weapons you'll stumble upon in the world, others you'll earn in battles, and of course, there's always shopping if you're into spending. The fun part? Free aim weapons get stronger as your characters level up. No complicated upgrade trees, just pure progression. So let's dive into which weapons you should really keep an eye out for in the early hours of the game. I'm quickly moving on to the video. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching! If you are diving into Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and looking for a reliable early weapon for Gustav, then you definitely need to check out the Krillaram. It is a sword that you can pick up by fighting a wild group of monsters in the area known as Flying Waters. And trust me, it is worth the effort. These kinds of fights might seem optional at first, but going through dungeon mobs at least once is actually a smart move. Not only can you snag rare weapons like the Krillaram, but you might also stumble upon hidden pictos tucked away behind enemy lines. What makes the Krillaram stand out is not some fancy upgrade path or stat boosts through crafting, because it does not have any of that. Instead, this sword comes with a built-in elemental advantage, ice damage. That alone gives it a lot of value, especially if you are heading into a dungeon where monsters are weak to ice-based attacks. In those situations, Gustav can suddenly go from just holding his own to really tearing through enemies like a pro. It is also kind of refreshing to have a weapon that just works straight out of the box. You do not have to worry about spending resources or tracking down upgrade materials. It is simple, it is effective, and it plays into Gustav's combat style really well. So if you come across the Krillaram early on, do not overlook it. Equip it, head into an ice-friendly dungeon, and watch how much easier combat becomes. The Galterum is a solid pickup for Gustav if you are looking to expand his elemental coverage in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Unlike the Krillaram, which leans into ice damage, the Galterum brings earth-based power to the table. You can get your hands on it once you unlock Esquie, a vehicle that kind of works like the classic airships from old-school Final Fantasy games. Once you have Esquie, make your way north from its lair on the world map, and that's where the real challenge begins. Waiting for you up there is a monster named Bruerum. If the name sounds familiar, that's because you might have already run into it back in Flying Waters. But this time, it is even more dangerous. Bruerum is basically a mini-boss, and it does not play nice. One of its nastiest tricks is the ability to swallow your allies whole, which can instantly turn the tide of a fight if you are not paying attention. The best strategy? Master your dodging and go in with lightning-based attacks. That element seems to cut through its defenses better than anything else. Once you defeat Bruerum, the Galterum is yours, and it is absolutely worth the battle. It does not rely on flashy mechanics, but the earth damage it deals opens up a lot of possibilities for Gustav. It is especially handy in dungeons where enemies are weak to earth-based skills. Pairing it with the right timing and positioning in combat makes Gustav even more of a powerhouse. So yeah, getting the Galterum is a bit of a detour, but if you are serious about building a strong elemental arsenal for him early on, this is a must-do. The Trouadm is one of those weapons you definitely do not want to skip if you are playing as Lune in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Think of Lune as your classic RPG mage, focused on ranged magical damage rather than getting up close with enemies. To get the Trouadm, you will need to take on the Chromatic Troubadour mini-boss in Flying Waters. It is not the easiest fight, but considering what you get out of it, the risk is more than worth it. Unlike some of the other early weapons, the Trouadm does not come with any elemental bonuses baked in. But what it lacks in elemental flair, it makes up for with strong upgrade potential. Right from the start, you get a super useful bonus. Lune's free aim attacks will hit multiple enemies at once. That alone makes crowd control way more manageable. As you keep leveling the weapon, things only get better. By level 10, free aim dishes out 50% more damage, which is a massive boost for any mage-style character. The real highlight comes with the final upgrade. This is where the Trouadm introduces a mechanic called Stain. This effect is tied to Lune's elemental abilities, and once unlocked, it adds a layer of strategy to her attacks. Stains can be used with other skills to set up combo effects or amplify elemental damage, depending on how you play. It gives Lune more depth and makes her much more versatile in tougher battles. So, if you are planning to keep Lune in your party long-term, upgrading the Trouadm is easily one of the smartest early game decisions you can make. If you are playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and want a powerful yet easy-to-get weapon for Mael, look no further than the Sakarum. Unlike some weapons that are hidden behind tough fights or complicated side quests, this one is refreshingly simple to grab. All you need to do is visit Gestrel Village, a place you will naturally come across as you move through the main story. There you will find a merchant named Izda who sells the Sakarum. No grinding required, just some currency, and you are good to go. What makes the Sakarum stand out is how well it fits Mael's fast-paced, stance-based combat. Right out of the box, it gives her a huge advantage. If you manage to break an enemy, Mael automatically switches into her Virtuose stance. That alone is a game changer, since Virtuose stance boosts her attack power by a whopping 200%. It means that just by playing aggressively and timing your hits well, you can instantly ramp up her damage output without having to trigger the stance manually. The upgrades on the Sakarum take things even further. At the next level, Mael's free aim attacks break 2 shields instead of 1, making her much more effective against tougher enemies that rely on shield mechanics. And when you fully upgrade the weapon, every single attack she makes in Virtuose stance will ignore shields entirely. That kind of power lets her stay on the offensive without having to slow down for defense. If you are focusing on building Mael into a frontline burst damage dealer, the Sakarum is practically made for her. If you are looking to spice up Mael's combat style in Clair Obscur Expedition 33, then the Bruerum is a weapon you absolutely need to check out. It is a fire element sword that can be found by battling random enemy mobs in flying waters. Nothing too dramatic, no big bosses, just regular encounters. That makes it one of the easier elemental weapons to track down early on, and the rewards for finding it are surprisingly strong. Right from the first level, Bruerum adds a great bonus. Critical hits now apply burn. In this game, burn is more than just a flashy visual. It causes enemies to take fire damage every turn for a limited time. This makes it perfect for whittling down tanky enemies or layering on pressure during longer fights. If you like playing aggressively and keeping enemies on their back foot, this status effect pairs beautifully with Mael's fast, hit-heavy fighting style. As you invest in upgrades, Bruerum just gets better. At level 10, Mael can stack 2 burn effects at once, meaning double the damage over time. But the real star of the show is the final upgrade. As long as Mael is not in a stance, every single attack she lands will be a guaranteed critical hit. That's a massive boost for raw damage output, and it opens up an entirely new playstyle. One where staying out of stance becomes a deliberate strategy. If you want Mael to burn through enemies, literally, then Bruerum is the way to go. The Trebuche is an incredible pickup for Lune if you are exploring the ancient sanctuary in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It is not locked behind a boss fight, just a regular enemy mob encounter, which makes it pretty easy to get your hands on if you are already venturing through that area. This weapon comes with a lightning element attached, which gives it a solid edge in battles against enemies weak to that type. But what really sets it apart is how it ties into Lune's unique combat mechanic, Stains. From the moment you equip the Trebuche, every free aim attack Lune uses will generate a stain automatically. That means you are constantly stacking up this key resource without having to slow down or get fancy with your moves. Since stains fuel several of Lune's high-impact skills, including her Mayhem ability, the synergy here is just too good to ignore. It basically turns her into a much more efficient caster. She is throwing out damage and refueling her skill power at the same time. The real payoff comes as you upgrade the Trebuche. At level 10, consuming stains will regenerate 1 action point, which is huge when you are juggling multiple enemies or setting up combos. Then at level 20, it gets even crazier. Lune's normal attacks will start generating 2 random stains on their own. So even without using free aim, she can keep her elemental toolkit stocked up. This weapon turns Loon into a non-stop spell machine, and if you are focusing on a lightning or stain-heavy build, it is absolutely worth hunting down early. The Galterum is one of those early-game gems you can pick up without even needing to fight anyone. If you are playing as Loon in Clair Obscur Expedition 33, keep your eyes open when exploring the first dungeon, Spring Meadows. Near a pile of crates, you will find this fire-infused weapon just waiting to be grabbed. It is a free elemental boost at a point in the game where most characters are still working with basic gear. And later on, when you reach the Ancient Sanctuary, a place packed with enemies weak to fire, it really starts to shine. Right from the start, the Galterum gives Loon a nice tactical edge by reducing the cost of her fire-based abilities, including one of her signature skills, Wildfire. That makes her much more efficient in longer fights where action points can get tight. By level 10, it ups the ante even more by boosting all fire attacks by 20%. This might not sound like a huge deal, but for a mage-style character like Loon, stacking elemental bonuses early can make a noticeable difference, especially against enemies that already take bonus damage from fire. Now here is where things get weird. In a good way. The final upgrade on the Galterum gives Loon one strain of ice magic at the start of battle. It is unexpected, especially coming from a fire weapon, but it opens up some creative options. You can use that free ice strain to trigger mixed element skills or cover weaknesses in your team's composition. It is not the most straightforward buff, but for players who like experimenting with elemental combos, it is a surprising and welcome bonus that makes the Galterum more than just another early game fire stick. The Medalum is hands down one of the best starter weapons in Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and if you are playing with Mael, you really do not want to miss it. The tricky part is, it is totally possible to overlook. During the Gestrel Village arc, you will be asked to compete in a tournament-style event where you can only bring one character into the arena. If you choose Mael for this challenge and come out on top, she earns the Medalum as a reward. It is a one-shot opportunity, so make sure you are ready before stepping in. What makes the Medalum such a strong pickup is that it places Mael in her virtuose stance automatically at the start of every battle. That means you skip the usual build-up or trigger conditions and go straight into high damage mode. Virtuose stance boosts her attack power significantly, and having it activated by default gives her an aggressive edge from the very first turn. This is perfect for players who want Mael to lead the charge and take down enemies fast, especially in early game fights where you are still figuring out team synergies. As you upgrade the Medalum, it leans heavily into fire-based enhancements. All of its improvements boost Mael's effectiveness with fire damage, which can be a big help in dungeons or against bosses weak to that element. But beyond just stats, the Medalum is also key to unlocking the One Puncho side quest in Gestrel Village, a fun and rewarding early quest line that becomes much easier if you have this weapon equipped. All in all, if you want Mael to shine from the start and set up for an explosive early game, the Medalum is essential. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.